My name is Paige Eisner. I'm 29. Last Saturday night at 8:47 p.m., I was standing in front of a bonfire with 40 of my relatives watching, and my father looked me dead in the eye and said, "This is the mistake from my first marriage." The fire crackled behind him. Sophia, my stepmother, had her arm looped through his, wearing that cream cashmere sweater that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Jennifer, my stepsister, stood beside them looking uncomfortable, her eyes darting between me and the flames. My father's voice carried across the circle of lawn chairs and picnic blankets. 40 people, 40 witnesses. I counted them while my face burned hotter than the fire. "Michael, maybe this isn't," my Aunt Ruth started. "No," he cut her off. "Paige needs to understand why she wasn't included in the new trust arrangements. She's been poisoning this family for years, and I won't have her disrespecting Sophia anymore." My hands were steady. That surprised me. 3 months ago, they would have been shaking. 3 months ago, I would have apologized. I would have cried in my car and driven back to my studio apartment and wondered what was wrong with me. But 3 months ago, I didn't have my grandmother's letter in my purse. I didn't have the screenshots. I didn't have the truth. "Dad," I said quietly, "I haven't said a single disrespectful thing tonight. Your presence is disrespectful." Sophia's voice was silk over steel. "After what you accused me of? After the horrible things you said about Jennifer?" I hadn't accused Sophia of anything. Not out loud, not yet. Before I go on, if stories about standing up for yourself mean something to you, please hit like and subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from right now and what time is it there. Let me take you back 18 years to when I was 11 years old. My grandmother Patricia lived in a white farmhouse at the end of Sycamore Road, the kind of place that smelled like lavender sachets and lemon furniture polish. Every Sunday after church, she'd make buttermilk biscuits from scratch, and I'd sit at her kitchen table doing homework while she worked the dough with her strong, flour-dusted hands. "Your grandfather built this house in 1967, she told me one afternoon. The September sun came through the window at that perfect golden angle. 43 years we've been here. Raised your father and your aunt in these rooms. When I'm gone, this place goes to family. Real family. People who know what it means." She looked at me when she said it, not past me, right at me. "You're going to do something important with your life, Page Girl," she said. That's what she called me. Page Girl. "You've got your grandfather's heart. You see people who are hurting, and you want to fix it. That's rare." I was 11. I didn't understand what she meant. I just knew that when I was with Grandma Patricia, I felt like I mattered. "I'm thinking about being a nurse," I told her. She smiled. "Then you'll be the best damn nurse in the state." That was 18 years ago. That was before my mother died of ovarian cancer when I was 13. Before my father remarried 8 months later to Sofia Morales, a woman who showed up to my mother's funeral in a navy dress and pearl earrings and introduced herself to my father during the reception. Before Jennifer, Sophia's daughter, moved into my childhood bedroom while I got the converted basement. The first betrayal happened on a Tuesday, April 9th, 2 years after the wedding. I was 15. I came home from school at 3:42 p.m. and found my father and Sophia sitting at the dining room table with a stack of papers between them. Sophia's eyes were red. My father's jaw was set in that way that meant someone was in trouble. "Sit down, Paige." His voice was cold. I sat. "Sophia's pearl necklace is missing," he said. "The one her grandmother left her. It was in her jewelry box yesterday. Now it's gone." My stomach dropped. "I didn't. Jennifer saw you in our bedroom this morning. I was looking for my chemistry textbook. Jennifer borrowed it last week and—" "Don't you dare blame your sister," Sophia's voice broke. "She's already so intimidated by you. She tries so hard to be part of this family, and you've never accepted her." "That's not true." "The necklace is worth $8,000, my father said. If you took it to sell it, just tell us now. We can work through this." "I didn't take anything." But Jennifer was standing in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. 13 years old and tiny and vulnerable. I saw her, Daddy. I saw Paige go into your room. I didn't want to say anything, but my father looked at me like I was a stranger, like I was something he'd found on the bottom of his shoe. Go to your room, he said. We'll discuss your punishment later. I went to the basement. I sat on my bed with my back against the wall and tried to figure out how this was happening. I hadn't touched Sophia's jewelry. I'd barely even looked at her jewelry box. But Jennifer had seen me, or said she had. The next day at school, 3 girls from my biology class stopped talking when I walked past. One of them whispered something. The other 2 looked at me and away, quickly, like they'd been caught. By Friday, everyone knew. Paige Eisner stole her stepmother's necklace. Paige Eisner is jealous of her new family. Paige Eisner has problems. My father grounded me for 6 weeks. No phone, no friends over, no after-school activities. I lost my spot on the debate team. I lost my study group. I spent those 6 weeks in the basement, doing my homework and trying to figure out what I'd done wrong. The necklace turned up 2 months later in Sophia's gym bag. She'd forgotten she'd brought it to get reclosed at the jeweler near her Pilates studio. She told my father. My father told me. Neither of them apologized. Sophia said, "Well, the important thing is we found it." My father said, "This doesn't change what you put this family through, Paige." I was 15. I believed that meant something. I believed if I just tried harder, if I was better, quieter, more helpful, they'd see I wasn't a problem. I believed family meant forgiveness. I was wrong. After that, things happened in a pattern. Small things, big things, all adding up. Sophia told my father I'd called Jennifer stupid. I hadn't. Jennifer failed a math test and asked me for help, and I'd spent 2 hours explaining fractions to her. But Sophia said I'd made her feel inferior. My father believed Sophia. Sophia told my father I'd stolen $200 from her purse. I hadn't. But my bank account suddenly had an extra $200, deposited anonymously. My father made me pay it back from my summer job earnings. I was saving for a car. I ended up taking the bus my entire junior year. Sophia told my father I was sneaking out at night. I wasn't. I was working overnight shifts at a nursing home, the only job that paid enough to start rebuilding my savings. But my father took my key to the house. I had to knock to be let in. At 17 years old, I had to knock on my own front door. By the time I graduated high school, I had $3,247 in my bank account and a full scholarship to nursing school 3 hours away. My father came to my graduation. He sat in the back. He left before the ceremony ended. Sophia didn't come at all. She said Jennifer had a dance recital the same day. My grandmother Patricia came. She sat in the front row, wearing a purple dress and a corsage I'd sent her. When I walked across the stage, she stood up and clapped so loudly that people 3 rows back turned to look. After the ceremony, she hugged me so hard my ribs hurt. "You did it, Paige girl," she whispered into my hair. "Your mama would be so proud." Then she pressed an envelope into my hand. Inside was a check for $5,000 and a note. For nursing school. "Don't tell your father. Love, Grandma." I didn't tell him. I deposited the check. I moved into a dorm room with 2 roommates and started nursing school. I worked weekends at a hospital cafeteria. I studied until 2 a.m. most nights. I called my grandmother every Sunday. My father called me twice in 4 years. Once to tell me Jennifer had been accepted to a private college. Once to tell me Sophia was pregnant. No, wait, that was a lie too. Sophia wasn't pregnant. But I didn't know that yet. I graduated with my nursing degree when I was 23. Top 15% of my class. I got hired at St. Catherine's Hospital in the emergency department. 12-hour shifts, 3 days a week, $54,000 a year. It felt like a fortune. My grandmother came to my graduation. My father didn't. I worked at St. Catherine's for 5 years. I learned how to start an IV in a moving ambulance. I learned how to tell a mother her son didn't make it. I learned how to keep my hands steady when everything was falling apart. I learned how to stay calm. Staying calm became my survival skill. When my father called me to say Jennifer was getting married and I wasn't invited to be a bridesmaid, I said, "That's fine. I hope she has a beautiful day." When Sophia sent me a Facebook message asking why I never visited, I didn't respond. When my father called me on my 28th birthday, 3 hours late, and said, "Sorry, we were at Jennifer's art show and lost track of time," I said, "No problem, Dad. Thanks for calling." Staying calm meant I didn't give them ammunition. Staying calm meant I didn't become the crazy, jealous daughter Sophia told everyone I was. But calm only works until it doesn't. Last June, my grandmother had a stroke. Aunt Ruth called me at 6:14 a.m. I was just getting off a night shift. My scrub still smelled like antiseptic and trauma. "It's your grandma," Ruth said. "She's at Northeast Medical. They don't know if she's going to make it." I drove 90 miles per hour. I made it in 2 hours and 8 minutes. I ran through the ICU doors still wearing my St. Catherine's badge. My grandmother was alive. Weak, but alive. The stroke had affected her right side. She couldn't move her arm. Her speech was slurred. But when she saw me walk into her room, her eyes cleared. "Page girl," she whispered. I held her left hand. I stayed for 3 days. I slept in the chair next to her bed. I talked to her doctors. I helped the nurses with her care. On the third day, she was stable enough to be discharged to a rehabilitation facility. My father showed up on the fourth day, after she'd already been transferred. "Where is she?" he demanded when he saw me in the hospital cafeteria. "Cedar Ridge Rehab. She was discharged yesterday." "And no one called me?" "Aunt Ruth called you 4 times, Dad. You didn't answer." His face went red. "I was busy, Paige. Some of us have responsibilities." I was wearing scrubs. I'd just worked a 12-hour shift after spending 72 hours at my grandmother's bedside. I was running on 4 hours of sleep and cafeteria coffee. "Okay," I said. "Just that. Okay." Something in his face changed. "Don't you dare judge me. You don't know what it's like trying to manage a family and a career and—" "I need to get back to work," I said. "Grandma's in room 304 at Cedar Ridge if you want to visit her." I left. He didn't follow. 2 weeks later, I was working a Friday night shift when my personal cell phone rang. I didn't recognize the number. "Is this Paige Eisner?" "Yes." "This is Margaret Shue from Ridgemont Law Associates. I'm calling regarding Patricia Eisner's estate planning. She's listed you as a beneficiary and asked me to reach out to schedule a meeting." My heart stopped. "Is Grandma okay?" "Oh, yes. She's fine. This is just standard trust administration. She wants to update some documents while she's still mentally competent. Can you come to our office this Tuesday at 10 a.m.? I took the day off. I drove to Ridgemont. I sat in Margaret Shue's office, which smelled like leather and old paper and money. Margaret was maybe 50, with silver hair and sharp eyes. She slid a folder across her desk. "Your grandmother established a revocable living trust in 2008, she said. "The primary asset is her home and the land, valued at approximately $680,000. There's also a savings account with $240,000. She's named you and your Aunt Ruth as equal beneficiaries. Your father is explicitly excluded." I stared at the paper. "Excluded?" "Per your grandmother's instructions, yes. She's been very clear about this since the trust was established." "Does my father know?" Margaret's expression didn't change. "Not to my knowledge. The trust is revocable, meaning your grandmother can change it at any time. But she's asked me to tell you about it now, because she's concerned about what might happen if she becomes incapacitated. She wants you to know that her wishes are documented and legally binding." I left that office in a daze. I sat in my car for 20 minutes staring at the folder. My grandmother had protected me. For 17 years, she'd had my back. That night, I visited her at Cedar Ridge. She was in physical therapy, relearning how to walk. She'd regained some movement in her right arm. Her speech was clearer. "Did you meet with Margaret?" she asked. "Yes." "Good." She squeezed my hand with her left fingers. "Your father doesn't know, and I don't want him to know. Not yet. But I wanted you to know that I see you, page girl. I see what he's done. I see what she's done. Grandma, let me finish. I don't have many words right now, so I need them to count. You are not the problem. You never were. You're the best thing your father ever did, and he's too stupid to see it. When I'm gone, you'll have the farm. You'll have the money. You'll have proof that you mattered. I cried. I'd been holding it together for so long, years, and I cried in that rehab room while my 81-year-old grandmother held my hand. Don't cry, baby, she said. You're going to be just fine. Better than fine. You're going to be free. I drove home that night feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. It lasted 11 days. On July 18th, I was working the evening shift in the ER when my father walked through the automatic doors. I was at the nurse's station, charting a patient's vitals. I looked up, and there he was, wearing khakis and a polo shirt, looking around like he owned the place. Sophia was with him. So was Jennifer. They weren't there for medical care. They were there for me. Paige. My father's voice carried across the waiting room. 15 people looked up. My co-worker Brenda stopped mid-sentence. I stood up. Dad, is everything okay? We need to talk about your grandmother. This isn't really the place. You've been manipulating her. Sophia stepped forward. Her voice was high and shaking, telling her lies about us, turning her against her own son. My face went hot. I could feel everyone watching. I haven't told Grandma anything that isn't true. You told her I'm a gold digger. Sophia's eyes welled with tears. Perfect, camera-ready tears. You told her Jennifer isn't Michael's real daughter. That part was actually true, but I hadn't told my grandmother. Not yet. Sophia, I didn't. She's trying to steal Mom's inheritance, Jennifer burst out. She looked at my father like I was a monster. Daddy, she's manipulating Grandma Patricia just like she manipulated you all those years ago. My supervisor, Karen, appeared at my elbow. Is there a problem? No problem, my father said smoothly. Just a family discussion. We'll take it outside. Paige is working, Karen said. Her voice was steel-wrapped in professionalism. If you're not here for medical treatment, I'll have to ask you to leave. This is between me and my daughter. This is a hospital, sir. Paige is on duty. You need to leave now, or I'll call security. My father looked at me like I'd betrayed him, like I'd sicked Karen on him, like everything was my fault. This isn't over, he said. They left. I stood there in the middle of the ER, 15 patients staring at me, Brenda's mouth hanging open, Karen looking at me with a mixture of pity and concern. You okay? Karen asked. I'm fine, I said. I wasn't fine, but I was used to pretending. I went back to work. I checked vitals. I started IVs. I helped Dr. Marcus Chen with a motorcycle accident victim. I was calm. I was professional. I was good at my job. But something had changed. Something had cracked open in my chest, and it wasn't fear anymore. It was anger. Cold, quiet anger. They'd come to my workplace. They'd humiliated me in front of my coworkers and my patients. They'd tried to make me look unstable, manipulative, greedy. And for what? Because my grandmother loved me? That night, after my shift ended at midnight, I sat in my car in the hospital parking lot and made a decision. I wasn't going to run anymore. I wasn't going to apologize anymore. I wasn't going to be calm anymore if calm meant letting them erase me. I pulled out my phone and called Aunt Ruth. Paige, it's midnight. Are you okay? I need you to tell me the truth about something, I said. Jennifer, is she really Dad's daughter? Silence. Long, heavy silence. Ruth, please. No, she said finally. She's not. Sophia was already pregnant when she met your father. But Michael doesn't know. Sophia told him the baby was his, and he believed her. He legally adopted Jennifer after the wedding. How do you know? Your grandmother hired a private investigator 8 years ago. She had suspicions. The investigator found Jennifer's original birth certificate. Father unknown. Conception date was 4 months before Sophia met Michael. My hands were shaking. Does Grandma have proof? Yes, and more. Sophia's been having an affair for the last 6 years with a man named Derek. Your grandmother has been documenting everything. Photos, hotel receipts, text messages. She's been waiting for the right time. Why didn't she tell Dad? Because he wouldn't have believed her. You know how he is. He only believes what he wants to believe. Your grandmother knew she needed irrefutable proof, and she needed to wait until the legal documents were in place so Sophia couldn't contest the trust. I sat in that car until 1:30 a.m. processing. My father had replaced my mother with a woman who'd lied to him from day one. He'd pushed me out of the family to make room for a stepdaughter who wasn't even his biological child. He'd chosen Sophia's word over mine 100 times, and the entire foundation was a lie. The affair, I could have guessed. But the paternity fraud? That was something else. 2 weeks later, I got a call from my father's number. It wasn't my father. Paige, this is Jennifer. I almost hung up. What do you want? I'm sorry about the hospital thing. Mom made me go. She said you were trying to steal from Grandma Patricia and I should back her up. But I don't think you're a bad person. I never did. Jennifer. Dad's planning to have Grandma declared incompetent. He talked to a lawyer. He says she's not mentally fit to make decisions anymore, and he needs to take over her finances. Mom's pushing him to do it. She wants to sell the farm. My stomach turned to ice. When? Soon, like next week. I overheard them talking about it last night. Mom said once Dad has power of attorney, they can fix the trust. She said they can't let you steal what's rightfully ours. It's not yours, I said quietly. I know. Her voice was small. I know it's not. But Mom's convinced Dad that you're dangerous. She keeps saying you're manipulating Grandma. She showed him some texts between you and Grandma where you were asking about the trust, and she made it sound like you were coaching her. I had asked about the trust. After Margaret Shue told me about it, I'd texted my grandmother to thank her. Sophia must have seen those texts somehow. Jennifer, why are you telling me this? Because it's not right. None of this is right. And I'm tired of pretending I don't see it. She hung up before I could respond. I called Margaret Shue at 7:52 a.m. the next morning. Michael's trying to declare Patricia incompetent, I said. Can he do that? He can try. But your grandmother underwent a cognitive assessment last month as part of her trust review. She scored in the normal range for her age. She's legally competent to make her own decisions. If Michael tries to challenge that, he'll have to prove she's declined significantly in the past 30 days, which would be difficult. What do I do? Nothing. Let him file. Let him expose his intentions. Your grandmother anticipated this, Paige. Everything's already in place. But I couldn't do nothing. My grandmother was 81 and recovering from a stroke. She didn't need this stress. I drove to Cedar Ridge that afternoon. My grandmother was in her room, sitting in a chair by the window. She looked stronger than she had 3 weeks ago. Her right arm was moving better. She could walk with a cane now. Paige girl, she smiled when she saw me. Grandma, Dad's trying to get you declared incompetent. I know. You know? Ruth told me this morning. Your father called her yesterday asking her to sign some papers supporting his petition. She refused. Now he's not talking to her either. Aren't you worried? No. She reached for my hand. Baby, I've been planning for this for years. Your father is predictable. He's cruel, but he's predictable. I knew he'd try something like this the moment he thought there was money involved. What if he succeeds? He won't. I have documentation from 3 different doctors confirming my mental competence. I have the trust documents. I have Margaret. And I have something else. She reached into the drawer of her bedside table and pulled out a sealed envelope. My name was written across the front in her shaky handwriting. Don't open this now, she said. Open it when the time is right. You'll know when. Grandma. Promise me you won't open it until the time is right." I promised. I took the envelope. I put it in my purse. I didn't open it. Not then. 3 days later, my father filed a petition with the county court to have my grandmother declared legally incompetent. Margaret Shue called me within an hour. "The hearing is scheduled for August 30th, she said. "Your grandmother will need to appear. The judge will interview her, review the medical documentation, and make a determination." "Will I need to be there?" "You're not a party to the case, so no, but you can attend as a family member if you choose." I chose to be there. I took the day off work. I drove to the courthouse at 8 a.m. and sat in the back row of the courtroom. My father was there with his lawyer, a sharp-faced man in a gray suit. Sophia sat beside him, wearing black like she was already in mourning. Aunt Ruth was there, sitting 2 rows ahead of me. She turned when I walked in and gave me a small nod. My grandmother arrived at 9:15 a.m. with Margaret Shue. She was wearing a navy dress and pearl earrings, the ones my grandfather had given her on their 40th anniversary. She walked with her cane, slowly but steadily. She saw me in the back row. She winked. The hearing lasted an hour. My father's lawyer argued that Patricia Eisner had shown signs of cognitive decline following her stroke, that she was vulnerable to manipulation, that she'd made questionable financial decisions, and that her son needed to step in to protect her interests. Margaret Shue presented medical records from 3 doctors, all confirming my grandmother's cognitive function was normal for her age. She presented the results of the recent competency assessment. She presented bank statements showing no unusual activity. She presented my grandmother herself. The judge asked my grandmother questions. "What year is it? Who is the president? Can you tell me about your daily routine? Do you understand what's happening in this courtroom today?" My grandmother answered every question clearly, calmly, correctly. Then the judge asked, "Mrs. Eisner, why do you think your son is filing this petition?" My grandmother looked at my father. Her voice was steady. "Because I won't give him my house." The courtroom went silent. "Your Honor," my grandmother continued, "my son wants me declared incompetent so he can take control of my assets. He believes he's entitled to my property. He's not. I've made that clear. So now he's trying to take it by force." The judge looked at my father. "Is that accurate, Mr. Eisner?" My father's lawyer jumped in. "Your Honor, my client is simply concerned about his mother's welfare. I'm talking to your client." The judge's voice was sharp. "Mr. Eisner, are you attempting to gain control of your mother's assets?" My father's face went red. "She's not thinking clearly. She's been influenced by— Your mother seems perfectly clear to me. Petition denied. Mrs. Eisner is legally competent. This case is dismissed." The gavel came down. My father stood there, stunned. Sophia grabbed his arm. She was whispering urgently in his ear. Aunt Ruth was smiling. Margaret Shue was packing her briefcase with brisk efficiency. My grandmother caught my eye and mouthed, "Later." I thought that was the end of it. I thought my father would back off, lick his wounds, maybe even apologize. I was wrong. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. "You think you won? You didn't. This is far from over. Sophia." The next morning, I woke up to find I'd been removed from every family group chat. My father's Facebook had me blocked. Jennifer's Instagram had me blocked. Sophia's Twitter had me blocked. I'd been digitally erased. Fine. I didn't need their social media. But then I got a call from my landlord. "Paige, someone called this morning claiming to be your father. He said you'd been fired from your job and couldn't make rent. He offered to pay your remaining lease if I evicted you immediately. I told him I couldn't do that, but I wanted you to know." I haven't been fired. I figured, but he sounded pretty convincing. Then I got a call from St. Catherine's HR. "Paige, we received a complaint this morning from someone claiming to be your family member. They said you'd been stealing medications from the hospital. We need you to come in for a meeting." My heart stopped. I haven't stolen anything. We have to investigate every complaint. It's policy. Can you come in tomorrow at 2 p.m.? I went to the meeting. I brought my badge logs, my medication administration records, my supervisor's endorsements. The investigation took 2 days. I was cleared completely. But everyone knew. Everyone had heard that Paige Eisner was under investigation. My father was trying to destroy my life, not my reputation within the family. He'd already done that years ago. My actual life, my job, my housing, my stability. Sophia was helping him. I knew she was. This had her fingerprints all over it. I sat in my apartment that night, staring at the sealed envelope my grandmother had given me. Open it when the time is right. Was this the right time? I didn't open it, not yet. Some instinct told me to wait. 2 weeks later, I got a text from Jennifer. Family reunion next Saturday at Grandma's farm. Mom convinced Grandma to host it. She's planning something. Be careful. Why would Sophia convince my grandmother to host a family reunion after everything that had just happened? What was she planning? I called Aunt Ruth. Did you get an invitation to a family reunion? Yes, your grandmother called me this morning. She said she's hosting, and she specifically wants you there. She said it's important. Did she say why? No, but Paige, if your grandmother says it's important. It's important. Go. I almost didn't. I almost stayed home. But my grandmother had asked for me. So on Saturday, September 14th at 5 p.m., I drove to Sycamore Road. The driveway was packed with cars. I counted at least 20 vehicles. The farm's front yard had been set up with picnic tables, lawn chairs, and a massive bonfire pit in the center. 40 people, maybe more. Cousins I hadn't seen in years, uncles and aunts, my grandmother's church friends, my father's colleagues, Sophia's family. This wasn't a small family gathering, this was a production. I parked at the far end of the driveway. I sat in my car for 5 minutes, trying to calm my racing heart. Then I grabbed my purse, the envelope was still inside, and walked toward the crowd. My grandmother was sitting in a chair near the bonfire, wrapped in a blanket despite the warm evening. She looked smaller than I remembered, frailer, but her eyes were sharp. She saw me and smiled. "Paige girl, you came." "Of course I came, Grandma." "Good. Stay close. Things are going to get interesting." People mingled. Someone had set up a grill, hot dogs and hamburgers. Someone else had brought potato salad and coleslaw. Kids ran around chasing fireflies. It should have felt normal. It didn't. My father was holding court near the food table, laughing loudly, clapping people on the back. Sophia was beside him, radiant in white linen, playing the perfect wife. Jennifer was standing apart, looking miserable. I stayed near my grandmother. Aunt Ruth materialized at my side. "Whatever happens," she murmured, "don't react. Stay calm." "What's going to happen?" "I don't know. But your grandmother has that look." At 8 p.m., my father clinked a bottle against a glass. The conversations died down. "Everyone, can I have your attention for a minute?" The crowd gathered around the bonfire, 40 faces illuminated by flames. "I want to thank everyone for coming tonight," my father said. His voice was warm, jovial. "Family means everything to me. It always has. And I'm grateful we can all be together on Mom's beautiful farm, celebrating the people we love." Sophia squeezed his arm. Jennifer looked at the ground. "Mom," my father continued, looking at my grandmother, "you've given this family so much. This land, this home, the memories we've built here. We're all so grateful." My grandmother's expression didn't change. "Which is why it breaks my heart," my father said, his voice shifting, "that there are people in this family who want to tear us apart." I felt everyone's eyes shift, some toward me, some away. "My daughter Paige," he looked directly at me, "has been trying to manipulate my mother into changing her will. She's convinced Mom that I'm some kind of villain, that I don't care about this family, that I don't deserve to inherit what my father built." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Dad, I started. Let me finish, please. His tone was wounded, martyred. I've tried to be patient with Paige. I've tried to understand where this anger comes from. But standing here in front of all of you, I need to be honest. He took a breath. Sophia's hand was on his shoulder now, supportive, loving. Paige is the mistake from my first marriage. I love her, but I can't keep pretending that she's not toxic to this family. She's accused Sophia of terrible things. She's turned my mother against me. She's even tried to convince people that Jennifer isn't my daughter. The crowd gasped. I heard someone whisper, "Oh my God." Jennifer's face went white. So tonight, my father said, I'm asking Paige to leave. This is a family gathering and she's made it clear she doesn't want to be part of this family. So please, Paige, just go. 40 people stared at me. Some looked sympathetic, some looked uncomfortable, most looked convinced. This was the moment. This was when I was supposed to cry or yell or defend myself uselessly. This was when I was supposed to run away. Instead, I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone. I'll leave, I said quietly. My voice was steady. But first, I think everyone should see something. I opened my photos. I'd spent the last 2 weeks preparing, screenshotting, organizing, making sure everything was clear and time-stamped. I walked over to my cousin David. He was standing near the front holding a beer. Can you pass this around? I said, handing him my phone. Just scroll through. Everyone should see. David looked confused, but he took the phone. He looked at the screen. His eyes widened. What is this? My father demanded. Text messages, I said. Between Sophia and a man named Derek. The color drained from Sophia's face. David was scrolling now. Other people were crowding around him. Someone gasped. Someone else said, "Oh shit. That's private," Sophia's voice was shrill. You had no right. These texts are from Sophia's old phone, I said. The one she gave to Jennifer 2 years ago. Jennifer still had access to the cloud backup. She sent them to me last week. That wasn't entirely true. Jennifer had mentioned the phone, but Aunt Ruth's private investigator had pulled the actual texts from the phone records my grandmother had been collecting. But Jennifer had given me permission to say she'd helped. She wanted out. My father grabbed the phone from David. He scrolled. His face went from confused to pale to red. What is this? He whispered. Read them out loud, I said. Everyone should hear. My father's voice shook as he read. Derek, I can't wait to see you this weekend. Tell your wife you're at that conference again. Sophia, will do. R thinks I'm visiting my sister. He's so easy to fool. R. Richard. My father's middle name. Everyone knew he went by Richard at work. That's... Sophia grabbed for the phone. That's fake! She made that up! There are 847 messages, I said, dating back 6 years, complete with timestamps and location data. Derek's last name is Morales, by the way. Sophia's maiden name. He's her ex-husband. They never actually got divorced, just separated. They've been seeing each other every month since she married my father. The crowd was silent. 40 people, frozen. My father was still scrolling. His hands were shaking. And the best part, I continued, my voice still calm, still steady, is this text from 3 months ago. Sophia to Derek. I need to secure the trust before R finds out J isn't his. If Patricia changes the will, we get nothing. I need to convince him to have her declared incompetent. My father looked up. He looked at Sophia. What does that mean? Sophia's perfect composure cracked. Michael, let me explain. What does she mean Jennifer isn't mine? She's lying. Paige is making this up. I have the original birth certificate, I said. I pulled it from my purse. My grandmother had given it to me 2 days ago. Jennifer Marie Morales, born March 8, 2008, father unknown. Sophia was already 4 months pregnant when she met you, Dad. She lied. She told you the baby was yours. She let you legally adopt Jennifer. But Jennifer isn't your biological daughter. Jennifer was crying now, sobbing actually. I didn't know, she was saying to my father. I swear I didn't know. My father looked at Sophia like he'd never seen her before. Michael, Sophia said desperately, I can explain. I was going to tell you, I just needed time. You've had 16 years. The texts are out of context. Derek and I are just friends. And Jennifer, yes, okay, I was pregnant when we met. But I didn't think you'd accept her if you knew. And I wanted her to have a father. So you lied to me for 16 years. I protected our family. You used me. My father's voice was hollow. You used me for my name, my money, my mother's inheritance, others. And you made me. He stopped. He looked at me. For the first time in maybe my entire life, my father actually looked at me. Really looked at me. You made me push away my real daughter, he said, so quietly I almost didn't hear it. I didn't say anything. There was nothing to say. My grandmother's voice cut through the silence. She'd stood up from her chair. Her blanket had fallen away. She was small, 81 years old, still recovering from a stroke, but in that moment, she was the most powerful person at that bonfire. Michael, she said, I told you. I told you 18 years ago that Sophia was wrong for you. I told you she was using you, but you wouldn't listen. You chose her over your daughter. You called Paige a liar, you isolated her, you humiliated her, you tried to erase her. And for what? For a woman who never loved you, for a child who isn't even yours. Mom, I'm not finished. The trust documents are final. The farm goes to Paige and Ruth. You get nothing, Michael. Not because I'm punishing you, but because you don't deserve it. You threw away the best thing in your life because you were too proud to admit you were wrong. She looked at me. Paige, you're free. The house is yours. The land is yours. The money is yours. I've signed everything. Margaret has the papers. Grandma? And one more thing. She turned back to my father. I've been documenting Sophia's affair for 6 years. I have photographs. I have financial records showing money she's been taking from your joint accounts and giving to Derek. I have proof she's been planning to divorce you the moment I died and the trust was settled. I was going to wait until after I was gone to give this to Paige, but I think you need to see it now. She pulled a folder from beneath her chair and handed it to my father. He opened it. He looked at page after page. His face went gray. Sophia made a sound like a wounded animal. Then she ran, just turned and ran toward the cars. Derek's car, as it turned out. He'd been parked down the road, waiting for her signal. They'd planned this. They'd planned to humiliate me at this reunion, force my grandmother to give up the farm, and then disappear together. Instead, Sophia was running, and my father was standing there with proof of 16 years of lies in his hands. Jennifer walked over to me. Her face was blotchy from crying. I'm sorry, she said. I'm so sorry for everything. I didn't know about Derek. I didn't know about the trust. I thought you were the problem. Mom told me you were the problem. You were a kid, I said. It's okay. It's not okay. I helped her. I lied about the necklace. I lied about you going into their room. I said things that made you look bad because Mom told me to. I'm so sorry, Paige. I hugged her. She was 19 years old and her entire life had just imploded. She wasn't my enemy. She'd never been my enemy. She'd been Sophia's pawn, just like me. The reunion ended early. People left in shocked clusters, whispering. My father sat by the bonfire alone for an hour, staring at the flames. Aunt Ruth tried to talk to him. He didn't respond. Eventually, he got in his car and drove away. I stayed with my grandmother that night. We sat on the porch while the bonfire died down to embers. Why didn't you tell me, I asked, about all the evidence you'd been collecting? Because you needed to get strong on your own first, she said. If I'd given you the evidence 2 years ago, you would have used it wrong. You would have shown it in anger. You would have wanted revenge. But tonight, You showed it for truth. That's the difference, page girl. Truth doesn't need anger. Truth just needs light. I opened your letter, I admitted, last week, after Dad tried to get me fired. And? You wrote that you'd always see me, that you'd always choose me, that I was your heart. She squeezed my hand. You are. 6 months later, I'm living in my grandmother's farmhouse. She moved into the in-law suite we built on the west side. Aunt Ruth has the upstairs guest room when she visits, which is most weekends. I was promoted to charge nurse at St. Catherine's. I work 3 12-hour shifts a week. On my days off, I work on the farm. We've started a vegetable garden. We're fixing up the barn. My father and I don't speak. He's divorcing Sophia. He tried to reach out once through Aunt Ruth, but I'm not ready yet. Maybe someday. Maybe not. Jennifer comes by sometimes. She's taking a gap year, figuring out who she is outside of Sophia's manipulation. We're rebuilding something. It's not sisterhood, not yet. But it's honest. I still have my grandmother's letter. I keep it in my nightstand drawer. Sometimes I read it when I need to remember that someone saw me, really saw me, when I couldn't see myself. The last line says, "You were never a mistake. You were my greatest gift." If you're watching this and you've ever been called the problem, the mistake, the difficult one, if someone has ever made you feel like asking for basic love and respect makes you selfish, I want you to hear this. You're not the problem. You never were. The problem is people who need you to believe you're broken so they can avoid looking at their own cruelty. Silence isn't peace. Silence is the price you pay for someone else's comfort. And you don't owe anyone your silence. Not ever. If you've walked away from people who made you feel small, type, "I walked away" in the comments. If you stayed and fought for your worth, type, "I stayed and fought." Both are brave, both are valid, both are proof you survived. If this story meant something to you, check the description for more stories just like this one. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And remember, being loved isn't something you earn, it's something you deserve.